Hey there, and welcome to Let's Gay 1994, the show where we rewatch all of 1994. Today is January 6th, 1994, Thursday. And Thursdays are a big night, usually on NBC, so we'll be discussing some of that. But of course, we have to start off our day at home watching soaps. And we only have four today that I actually was able to watch. So we're going to talk about a little bit of Loving, which is the half-hour soap on ABC that kicks off our soaps, where Steffi has her storyline. I even got brought up a picture of Steffi this time for you, so you know who the hell I'm talking about. And I don't know these characters. I can't keep track of them. There's so many, especially on As the World Turns. I can't keep anyone straight on that one. That one to me is the weakest one I've watched so far, but we'll get to it when we get to it. But I just will say, though, that there are so many white blonde people on that show. I cannot keep track of any of them. I don't know who the fuck is who. And the men on that show are so blah that I cannot tell any of them apart either. Very just generic white guy that, like, it's not like they're hotties. They're just like the most generic actors. No offense if you were on As the World Turns in 1994. But it's just the plainest show. It's so like plainly white bread. I think there's one person of color on the whole fucking show. So anyway, but Loving, we've got our storyline with Steffi, of course, where she is dealing with, I guess, being rejected by a dude. So she reads Casey's journal, apparently, in this episode. And then she decides, I guess, if the way to be loved is to be skinny, and decides to, like, become anorexic. And, I'm sure that's not how it works in real life, but she I think also like totally wrecks the apartment or something, and they think like they're like, what the fuck happened here? And she's showing some cracks are forming. So that's Loving. But of course, Bold and Beautiful is up next over on CBS. I didn't get to watch. There were no other ABC soaps available for me to watch, so we're already moving over to CBS to watch some Bold and the Beautiful, where James here, he kisses Taylor, and that's a no-no. She's with Ridge, so we don't like that. This is James, though. He's been on a million soaps. He was on Days of Our Lives. He did Twin Peaks. I don't know if he's most known for this, or because he was also on General Hospital. You know, he's done them all. He's done a lot of soaps, but right now he's on Bold and the Beautiful, trying to steal Taylor away from Ridge. So he kisses her, and I think she lets him, but she doesn't really reciprocate those feelings because she still wants Ridge. So anyway, that's our Bold and the Beautiful. Moving over to NBC, we have A New Days of Our Lives, of course, with on this episode, John and Kristen, pictured here, legendary soap couple. I mean, John, of course, is more traditionally with Marlena, and Kristen becomes the villain, but right now she's still a superhero, or not superhero, but a heroine. We love Kristen right now. She's a Demera, but she's adopted, so there's hope. And honestly, like, it's pretty gross, though, the way they judge everybody just because they're a Demera, especially John. John's very guilty of it. Yet, Kristen, because he wants to fuck her, she's like, there must be some good in her. So, but, well, actually, I don't think he minds Peter yet. Peter's the real villain, though. He's Kristen's brother, adopted also. But he's, like, working with Stefano to keep them apart and doing all sorts of other dastardly things. But he hasn't quite moved in on Jennifer yet. But anyway, Kristen and John go on to Jennifer's TV show in this episode because they are trying to raise awareness about the selling of children on the black market, which like that's what they're worried, that Belle has been sold on the black market or will be sold on the black market because she's still missing. So they go on Jennifer's TV show, I guess, to raise awareness, and hopefully someone will hear about the baby. You know, they're just trying to find that baby, and Kristen is so devoted to finding it. I mean, and I guess it's out of the goodness of her heart, but it's also because I guess she's important to John, even though she doesn't know that Belle is John's daughter yet. So I don't know. Oh, well, she did deliver Belle. I forgot about that. She delivered Belle into this world with John because Marlena was stranded at the Horton cabin. So that's, I guess, why Kristen is so invested in this. But she's also looking for any excuse not to have to talk to Tony and get married, because that's next on her agenda. But no. First, we've got to find Belle. I can't get married until we find Belle, you know. So she's making up all sorts of excuses, noble as they may be, to avoid marrying Tony. So, because she really wants John. So that's Days of Our Lives. Over on Another World, we have Lorna also going on TV. This is Lorna to go on TV and talk about being raped by Kyle. And at first they try to leave it ambiguous. Like, she doesn't name her rapist, but then her, like, he calls in and is like, "You slut, you stupid bitch, you wanted it," that kind of stuff. And so her mom is the host of the TV show. I think it's not Felicia, or no, it is Felicia. Felicia, and I like her. She's one of the other characters I can actually remember from Another World back when my sisters would watch it. But Felicia, she's like, looks in the camera, she's like, "Fuck you, Kyle." I know what she it's like totally outs him as the caller, as her rapist, which legally can lead to some problems. So nobody's happy with Felicia after that, even though like Kyle did do it, but I guess legally she could get herself into trouble. So I don't know if this is the same episode where she calls him out, but this is when Lorna goes on TV to talk about her experience. So that really is it for soaps, right? Oh no, I wanted to mention. I was watching this and all of a sudden this familiar guy walks by. He's like an officer. I forget who he's throwing in jail at this point, but it was Enrico from fucking Just Shoot Me, who was also in the English teacher, which I actually worked on this last season. I was the stand-in for Evan, but um it's just always, I love Just Shoot Me so much, so it was always really cool to see Enrico or Rico or whatever on the set of Just Shoot, or on the set of English teacher. But here's where his early beginnings were on Another World. So I was like, I know that cop. I recognize that bald head. And this was before Just Shoot Me too, so I'm not sure if he did much else prior to Just Shoot Me, but this was 1994. Just Shoot Me doesn't start till like 98, I think. So he was still doing his cop gig on Another World at this point in time. So that was fun to see him. So anyway, that's that. Moving on to our primetime lineup on ABC, right? This is ABC, yes. At 8 p.m. on Thursday night, they're going up against The Simpsons, and they're going up against Mad About You and the Must See TV on NBC. They didn't stand a chance. This show, I don't think I've talked about it, because obviously this is the first airing. It's I actually like the show just because it is one of those shows that pulls you in because there's a mystery. Where did this person go? And there's usually like 3 or so storylines. One's like a lighthearted one, one's a serious dark one, and then they have another one just to give someone else a storyline. I don't know. But I also noticed how they pace them. It's kind of weird. Like one of them, like they open with one, and sometimes that missing persons case is wrapped up midway through the episode, and then so we just focus on the other two for the rest of the show. And but it's a decent show. It's just the biggest problem is its soundtrack. My God, if you've watched the show, you might remember the fucking trumpet throughout the goddamn show. That's the only fucking instrument they have, like, at the studio. So it's just constantly blaring. No matter the scene, no matter like the mood, it's just constantly trumpets. And I'm like, or whatever horn it is. And it's just the worst. So but yeah, the cast is okay. We of course, like, I don't even know who that big guy in front is. I feel like he's never on it, but the old guy's like the head guy on the left, and then we have the hot guy, and then the Latino guy in the middle, I think, and then we have the black guy, and then the lady. So it's a nice diverse cast. I appreciate that about it, but one of the things that drives me nuts about this lady here, I love her. She's a great actress, but I'd have to maybe blame it on the writing, because they always want her to be like the one who's like, I can identify with the kidnapper and really make him open up, because she's just got such a great personality, and so she's just always like trying to be like, oh, I remember there was one episode, it was so terrible. There's a guy whose like fiance went missing, and she's like, "Well, how did you meet her?" And really wants to know, and he's like, "Well, I met her at a bar," and she's like, "Oh, I gotta hear this," and I'm like, "Really?" Cares? This is the lamest story ever. Oh, I gotta hear this. And she's just one of those, and it drives me nuts, because she's always like bubbly, like, "Oh, I'm so interested in you and your life," like kind of personalities, but it's like comes off so disingenuous, and it God bless her. It only lasted a season, the show, and it's probably because of that trumpet. But in this episode, let's see, it is if you could pick your own parents, and in this episode, an elderly man missing. Sorry, these IMDb descriptions I think are written by people, not like the official description. So, elderly man missing, wife attempts suicide. Is that 2 separate cases? I can't even remember at this point. Group plans a holiday party for the lieutenant. Jumper's body hasn't been found and no one's reported him missing. Oh, yeah. This guy jumps off a bridge Was that, or maybe no, I'm thinking of the Commish. Sorry, that's a different show. That have we talked about the Commish yet? I can't remember. So yeah, a jumper's body hasn't been found and no one's reported him missing. I don't know what that means. And then a boy reports his mom is missing. I forget what happened in all of these because this description is very weird. But yeah, missing persons though. I do enjoy it just because it's satisfying to find out, what happened to that person, and then you move on and enjoy your day. So that was it though for ABC that I was able to watch. Um right? Yeah. So moving on from missing persons, we move over to Fox and a little show. Geez, that's a big graphic. Moving off to another little show we know as The Simpsons, which is, of course, a huge show, and it's still Thursday nights when it airs at this point in time. So, Homer the Vigilante was the episode where Springfield is hit with multiple home invasions in only a couple nights, and after the Simpsons household is made a victim, Homer fancies himself as a vigilante. I actually might have forgotten to watch this because this sounds totally unfamiliar. So whatever. I don't need to talk about Simpsons because it's been covered to death. So I like to focus on those little known shows like Missing Persons. Or up next is the Sinbad Show, which I mentioned previously because it is one of my favorite new sitcoms. Sinbad is really funny. He was huge in the 90s. I feel like he's one of those people that kids born um after the turn of the century, they're not going to know who the fuck Sinbad is. He was huge in the 90s, though. So unless you were around in the 90s or really like 90s shows and movies, you're not going to know really who Sinbad is. I don't he may have gone on to do some other things post 2000, but this was when he was at his peak probably because they gave him a show. And it was good. I really like it. And it, of course, only lasts one season. And Sinbad was a huge star, and I love the show because the premise is he is just a single guy, and he works at, I forget if he's like an animator or he works with computers or something. That's a weird opening. And or at first he was working for an adoption agency, or maybe he was volunteering or something, and or helping place kids in foster homes. So these two kids pictured there are basically abandoned, and he ends up taking them in, and it was just it was such a it really sets him up as a great person. But you see why he does it though, because he's so good with them and he's such a good dad, so you're like, of course they should live with him. And I love his character. He's just the kind of guy you want to marry, and he's so good with the kids, and I find that so attractive, even though I'm terrible with kids. But Sinbad is just so good and so funny, and I really love him. It's funny, Selma Hayek was in this show for the first 2 episodes, and then I don't feel like I've seen her since. So she didn't last, but this was one of her earliest things, I believe. But I love this show. The kids are adorable, especially this little girl. She's so fucking adorable. You just want to squeeze her. But yeah, the episode that aired was Keep the Faith, which the only description I've got for you is LJ doesn't believe in God. So, I think Sinbad's parents are in it as well, and they tried taking him to church and stuff, but I think LJ, which is the adopted son, doesn't believe in God because of just what he's been through as a foster child. So, but I really think Sinbad's great because it also tackles some issues you don't normally see. Like there was an episode where I believe they tackled racism within the black community against lighter skinned or darker skinned black folks. And because I think someone the little girl was hanging out with a friend, and she said something about her being less pretty, I think, because she's darker skinned or something so it was just really, I've never seen a lot of shows that tackle that aspect or that struggle within the black community. And so it was really refreshing to just see something different and new, instead of just your typical sitcom topics that you just done to death, like men versus women, my favorite, and the differences between them, and why women rule and men drool. It's just oh god. So Sinbad's a breath of fresh air. It's got, I feel like, a pretty unique take too, a single dad that adopted these two kids, and then he deals with dating life and all that, and it's great. I really, really enjoy it. So I'm really sad it's only one season, but luckily it's a full season. They didn't cancel it after 3 episodes like a lot of these poor sitcoms. So that's the Sinbad Show. Up next, over on NBC now we go to Mad About You. This is must-see TV, where it was going on beforehand because Cheers was on Thursday nights, so NBC was always kind of like king of Thursday. And of course, Mad About You is no slouch. It This is its second season, and it's uh I enjoy Mad About You. I think one of the things I think is refreshing about this show is that it's called Mad About You because the two characters are mad about each other. And you see that in each episode how they just are so perfect together and click, and it's kind of almost a safe, comfortable show because you know they're not going to break up. You know everything's going to work out for them, but they're both really good and have great chemistry. Helen Hunt, of course, this is I think her first big thing, and Paul Reiser we used to have on My Two Dads, right? But I haven't seen that since the 80s. So but I have a crush on Paul. I have a crush on Paul Reiser as well. He's super cute. And I think I've stood in for him. I stood in for him on Stranger Things. I forgot about that. But yeah, he was kind of a babe in the 90s. And in this episode, it's Paul is Dead, where Paul and Jamie spend. Oh, wait, let me expand this. Sorry about that. Paul and Jamie spend the entire weekend broke and in a limbo state when another man named Paul Buckman dies, and the bank mistakenly freezes their bank account. The Buckmans end up attending the funeral of the other Paul Buckman to find out what kind of man he was. That was kind of funny that they were. There's some other show that did a similar thing. I feel like where they go to the funeral but they don't actually know the person and they have to pretend that like, oh yes, we really loved that guy. But in this one, they just wanted to know more about him. But yeah, no, I like Mad About You. It's not my favorite show, but it's solid, and I get why it lasted as many seasons as it did. So that was our Mad About You for the day. Next up, we have Wings, and Wings is another one I really like it. It takes place in the same universe as Cheers and Frasier, so there was a lot of crossover there when Cheers was still on. But I think now that Cheers is done and it's just Wings and Frasier, that kind of stuff doesn't really happen as much. Well, it does on Frasier because he's more Cheers centric. But I really like Wings. I love. Oh, here's another crush of mine. Who is this one? Brian. No, Joe. Joe's the one I think is fucking hot. Oh, I have such a crush on him. But the favorite character is Faye. I think she's fucking brilliant and so funny in her delivery. And I think she's still around at like 90 some years old as of this recording. Knock on wood. I hope I don't jinx that for her. I mean, but she's old as dirt now, but I love her to death. She's so good. And it's a great cast because it's got great quirky characters like Noel and Antonio, who plays a taxi driver. And you've got to love the big guy. What's his name? I'm terrible. I can't remember fucking shit. But they're all just so great. But one thing that I find interesting is that I remember like the Wings as having Amy Yasbeck on it for the whole show. Not that I ever really watched it back in the day, but I just felt like when I'd catch it, Amy Yasbeck was a part of it, the redhead. But if that's how you say her name, again, I mispronounce everything and I can't remember anything, so just get used to it. But she was really great. I loved her because she was on Days of Our Lives as well in the early 80s or mid 80s. But she was on this show. She was also in Problem Child and to the second one. Or no. She was in the first one because he actually liked her, wasn't it? No. What am I thinking of? I don't know. I don't know who was in the first Problem Child, but whoever had the daughter, that was also a problem. She was in that. It wasn't Amy Yasbeck. I thought she was Latoya or Latanya. I think Latanya. I don't know. But anyway, I love her, and she still hasn't joined the cast yet, even though we're on season 5. So anyway, in this episode, it's Ready Teddy Go, and Davis comes to the island. I think that's Helen's boyfriend that she's seeing at the time, and brings Helen out and invites Joe, Brian, and Alex to come along. They go back to his hotel room, and while he goes to freshen up, Helen goes through his luggage and finds a present which she assumes is for her and sees it something extremely personal. When he tells her that he has something for her, it's not what she saw, so she wonders if he's seeing someone else. This was a funny one. I just remember all them trying to like make sure he doesn't know that they looked because she peeks at the present, and them just trying to keep him occupied while they're trying to put it back where it belongs, and it's just really, really a funny, stupid episode. Anyway, that's our Wings. Next up, of course, is Seinfeld, and I do enjoy Seinfeld. I do think it's overrated. but I do enjoy it, and I understand why it's so popular. I think Elaine is the best, of course. And of course, Frasier, even though he became problematic later, he's a really funny character actor. But Jason Alexander is such a terrible human being, but I think that's the point. But it's just frustrating to watch him constantly like fuck up because you're like, dude, why do you have to be this way? But he wouldn't be George if he wasn't like that. And then, honestly, Seinfeld's the least interesting out of the batch. And also, he can never keep a straight face, and that drives me nuts. He's always breaking. And he never like laughs, but you could see him grinning, and I'm like, dude, you're the fucking main actor of this show, and you're breaking all the time. So, and his stand-up portions are also the lamest part of the show. He's just, I don't know, like the show's good, but I feel like it's his supporting cast that really carries it. Uh, this episode was The Stall. Oh, which had a very special guest star, hunky Dan Cortese. He did a lot of Burger King commercials at this time. Where you have it your way, I believe was the tagline, which I'd like it my way with Dan Cortese, I tell you what. But he was more well known from MTV Sports, I think was the show he hosted, and he was like, I don't know if he was considered a VJ, but he definitely had some MTV hosting gigs. And then has appeared randomly on a lot of stuff. He'll be on Melrose Place in a little bit, playing, I think he plays Jake's brother, but he's just a fucking babe. Oh, look at him. I mean, he's gorgeous. And he's still gorgeous today if you look up a current picture of him. But in this episode, though, of Seinfeld was called The Stall, when a mystery woman withholds toilet paper from Elaine. Of course, I didn't expand it, sorry. Who turns out to be Jerry's girlfriend. Jerry tries to stop her from figuring it out. And then George becomes enamored with Elaine's cool guy boyfriend, which is, I already fucking forgot his name after I just said it, Dan Cortese. So, like, I've got old problems. So George becomes enamored with Elaine's cool guy boyfriend. Kramer keeps calling a phone sex line. And this one was funny. The whole thing with Elaine trying to figure out who it was that wouldn't give her the toilet paper was just hilarious. And she's easily my favorite character in the show. She's just so good and so funny. I love her. But yeah, that's our Seinfeld. So up next we have Frasier, of course, to close out our night. And this episode was called Guess Who's Coming to Breakfast? We're surprised and flustered I guess Frasier is surprised and flustered when a neighbor spends the night with Martin. Frasier quickly makes a fool of himself, talking about it on the air. But yeah, that's like, and I guess I haven't really discussed Frasier, have I? Because I like it. It's probably out of the 4 shows on NBC tonight, it's probably my least favorite. I'll tell you that. And I do like Kelsey Grammer. I like Martin. I like most everybody except Niles. Niles drives me nuts because I feel like, one, I can't stand the way he's a married man, yet just shamelessly is all over Jane Levy or whatever her fucking name is. Daphne. It just rubs me the wrong way. I'm not a prude, but I still just fucking think like, you scuzzball, you're married. Like, of course she's a wretch, and we never see Maris, but just the way he just doesn't even, like, fucking divorce her and then decide to pursue this woman. Jesus Christ, it's just kind of gross. And that he's so pretentious. I know it's supposed to be funny, and Frasier is also pretentious, but somehow Frasier is a little bit more grounded and less of an asshole. I just don't like Niles. He's such a dick. And he thinks he's just better than everybody, and it drives me crazy. Like, Frasier just likes the finer things, I feel like, and he's pretentious, but I don't get that air of superiority from him that I do from Niles, and I've just never been a fan of his. So, anyway, that is Frasier on NBC, which closes out our regular shows and brings us to late night with Conan O'Brien. This is, of course, a more recent, like, early 2000s picture, probably, but James Carville, is that his name? He was on... He was the guest that night. Also, Amy Brenneman was on, who I believe is right now, she's on NYPD Blue, which I'm unable to watch because they took it off of Hulu, so now I can't watch it. And that wraps up our Thursday, though. That's it. Yeah, Thursday is a big night for NBC, and it will continue to be because Friends still hasn't premiered yet. I don't think it premieres till 95, but of course it's a Thursday night show for their Thursday night must-see TV. But yeah, that wraps up our Thursday. So please come back next week when we cover our Friday night on January 7th, 1994 on Let's Gay 1994. How do we do this? Okay.